Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to go through our goals and accomplishments for the second sprint of our fall 2025 work cycle, which started on October 8th and is officially wrapping up today. So we're going to hear from several different individuals who are going to talk through the specific accomplishments, but to sort of remind you, for this work cycle, the team has set four sort of major goals for the work cycle. And the first of those is to complete what we're calling a connected discovery prototype. So connecting Comet with our daylight-based discovery prototype that we're calling ADRL Lite, but also connecting it with the IIIF image server and that complete connected discovery ecosystem. We've also had one of the other goals for the work cycle was really continuing to make improvements to all of our environments. Specifically for this work cycle, really looking at application reliability across our environments. There's also just a few sort of lingering Comet MVP features that we're focused on knocking out during this work cycle. And then last but certainly not least, really making big progress towards reducing our tech debt. So we're gonna turn it over first to the ADRL Lite Daylight teams to talk about what they've accomplished on creating that connected system. So I think, Elisa, are you starting us off?
I'm starting us off.
Wonderful.
Hello, my name's Elisa Pierce, and am our component lead at UCSB for Daylight. And I'm going to share my screen. And so this is my working environment for ADRL Lite. I am just going to jump in to show you some of the work that we've done. So you've seen me search before. What we haven't been able to do before is see our facets and then add them to our applied parameters. We are now able to apply all of those facets and parameters, remove them as we see fit, and see that result set update. This is really exciting, especially since if I press search here and wait a second, we now have 16,000 plus results to work with. And so I really have been enjoying this because it really gives us that ability to go through the work that we've done, highlight any bugs that we might have. But one of the other pieces is we also now have images. So we are now able to get a thumbnail image through our API, all again connecting us further with our entire Surfliner suite. And then we also got a little bit of time and a manifest for our IIIF viewers. And so this is a real preview. But what I did was I dumped a UV, a universal viewer, IIIF viewer into a page just to see what that manifest looked like, see how it adapted. And so now we have our first step towards getting a IIIF viewer in this discovery platform. And this is really fun. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of styling. We have a lot of configuration to do with the IIIF. But I was having a good time playing with what we have here because it offers such a nice set of functionality. Just even at this stage, you can head to full screen. You can zoom in and zoom out, like just out of the box. And I know that there's some other things that we're going to be able to do with this here as we get to spend more time with it. So that is what we've done with ADR Lite and the front end. And I'll kick it over to Margaret, and she's going to give us an update on that back end.
Yeah, as Chrissy mentioned, our goal for the work cycle is to have everything connected so that we have Comet able to actually send things over to ADRL Lite and publish through the normal Comet publishing mechanisms. right now we're just loading in all of that data manually, which works, but is not very convenient when you need to make updates. So what we decided at the beginning of this sprint is that we would take the actual integration work and move that for the final sprint. So the coming 3 weeks, we'll be focusing on that. And in this sprint, we really wanted to make sure all of the prerequisites were done for that so that that was a manageable chunk of work. So that's all of the API work, which Elisa demoed some of that in terms of how those APIs are being used right now, getting the IIIF manifests going, and some deployment work in terms of like how are we going to deploy both of these things together, so the ADR Lite can talk to Daylight, it can talk to Comet, and just kind of all of the behind the scenes things, so that when we actually start plugging those pieces together in the coming sprint, that all works. So those are my updates in terms of like the back end side of things, how things went. But I think that we accomplished pretty much all of our goals in terms of what are the prerequisites. We haven't made very much progress in terms of actually plugging that together, but we kind of decided that that would be our focus for the coming 3 weeks. So I think we're in a good place there.
Ooh, there is a question. Do you want me to go ahead and answer that now?
Sure. What I might suggest that we read the question out, though. I'm not sure if the chat will.
All right, so I have a question. In the object view from your ADR Lite, I saw download metadata. What is the idea behind that? What format and will users get to get descriptive metadata or descriptive and administrative and technical? So this is one of those places where we haven't fully got the requirements out, but we know that there's likely going to be a download file. So we have put in a placeholder there. It is currently non-functional, but it is something that we are looking to work towards to have that piece. And so I don't have much to give other than yeah, we're aware of that ability and need, but it hasn't gotten much more.
And I can actually add to that because just a reminder that on the UCSB side, we're really for this stage really trying to target sort of the current functionality of ADRL for this discovery prototype followed by the redesign. So this is actually a feature that's in our current system. And the way that that behavior works currently, if you click it, you just go to the turtle file for that descriptive metadata. And so I do think we want to check in and with stakeholders here to confirm that that's still that kind of functionality is still desirable, but it is a thing that it exists in our current system that we're really trying to replicate at that point. Does that help answer your question, Gabriella?
It does. That's pretty cool. Thank you.
All right. If there are no more questions for the discovery team, I'm going to ask Michael to go ahead and tell us about some of the work that's been happening on the application reliability and testing and investigative work.
Sure, I'm happy to share some of this and speak on behalf of some of the amazing work the team's been doing. Just want to call out, I think the team in this context is obviously Surfliner team, but I want to make special mention to Longshoe and Juliana, who've been doing some deep dives to kind of try and help us resolve what's actually going on at a root level. And I think that's going to be a theme for what we're talking about here. And also just want to give a shout out to the data migration folks. So Arwen, Matt, and Abby, thank you so much for coming up with collections large enough to push Comet to its limits and giving us some really good things to examine. So thanks a ton. Really what we've been seeing is as we've been growing that database over time, a lot of the queries that are in the database have been taking longer and progressively are slowing things down. And so that's one observation we had. And we've also come away with improvements that need to be made to the ingest process to both shorten normal UI actions like a file manager, edit and sort, and Chrissy can speak to that in a moment, but also just in general making sure that long-running ingest shorten up quite potential. With high potential for success. I think some of our initial findings have been Small improvements have made like a 4x improvement in this, but we have a couple of pending changes here that we should see in the next week that will bring that down to like sub-millisecond response at a bunch of things. So that is actually really exciting and should make some really huge improvements to just in general the entire application and experience. Chrissy, did you want to talk a little bit about the file manager bit there?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the improvements that I think Langshu, I want to call out that I think you did a lot of work on improving this was an issue that we were seeing in the UI for the file manager. And I realized that it would have been helpful if I could actually show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to attempt to talk and browse over on the QA site so I can provide an example of this. So if you just give me 1 second, I am going to pull up, oops, help if all right, so I'm just going to share my screen really quick. So I'm in the QA site. And so what was happening initially, I'm going to go into an object and click on this file manager option. So what we had been seeing there, and unfortunately this is already, oh, actually this may not be sorted alphabetically. This might be a good example. So what was happening is when we were trying to sort things alphabetically to put them in the right order, when you sorted it and saved, it would just kind of like freeze visually. And so, but also at times just completely freeze altogether. And so now when and this actually is sorted alphabetically. But now the way that this works is when you click sort alphabetically, you actually get a nice green message that pops up and says, okay, I've now been sorted alphabetically. And then when you click save, you get that nice green pop-up that confirms that things have been saved successfully. I am going to go ahead and change the thumbnail so you can see some of this behavior on this side. So, oops, I do need to refresh because now it's all confused with me clicking all the buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and click save, and then I get this nice work generic object successfully updated. So this was a focus of a lot of testing, both to validate that the work that had been put into place was successful and saw lots of improvements there. I think it also helped to reinforce some of the performance investigations that Michael, you had been looking at, because what we started seeing was this worked beautifully with objects that had sort of 2 to 100 images. Once you got over in sort of the 100 to 200 range, it still works fairly well, but starts to really lag. And then we saw some real variability once you got over close to the 300 plus image mark, where we started seeing some failures or the system just not ever sharing that successful message. It is still being successful in the background, but I think that sort of added some evidence to what Michael and the UCSD team was seeing in their testing as well. And so lots of elevator button pushing, I think, happening this work cycle. And I'm really excited to hear the results of those findings and start to strategize the next steps for releasing those improvements, because I think they will make a really huge difference to the user experience.
And Chrissy, it's probably worth calling out that we see this in other areas like of Comet, like even just loading the all objects, or even in like workflow tasks. So this, like the underlying performance improvement should be pretty broad and sweeping, even though we do think we'll have some additional like targeted performance things. This should help raise the performance baseline quite a bit.
Yeah, that's such exciting work. I do actually want to, I don't know if there's any questions about that. If not, we can go ahead and move on to the work that's really been happening for the Comet MVP features, which for this sprint has really been focused on disaster recovery planning. So Michael, I think, do you want to start us off, or is it Mac?
No, I'm
Remind
I'm
me.
happy to
You're
to
happy
start
to.
us off, and then if Matt
Okay.
would like to jump in, he's more than welcome to, or Michael Craig.
Okay.
So the work we kind of framed out was really around two areas, around our storage and our database, and really we've been thinking very deeply about sort of how we back these things up, because that's what's populating really the sources for our disaster recovery. And in the rare event that something like that does happen, you want to be quite certain on the state and consistency of both of those. And so in this pass, we framed out both cumulative and campus-specific strategies for each of those. On the UCSD side, we were able to demonstrate both restores, successful restores from primary and secondary storage sources, and we're finishing up our work on restoring from Glacier. And on the database side, we also were able to show a successful restore for the metadata database and the other Comet database there. And from that, we actually found some really good things. We found that we needed to improve the Solar reindex task as a side effect of that, and so we opened up some additional issues. And the grand total is we have really good first pass on both of those. So we're able to recover both storage and database. We know just about how long it takes with like about 23,000 objects, as well as those reindexes. And we have some good next steps for what we think we need to do to improve based on our findings. And so we'll be happy to share that probably at the next sprint review. I want to invite Michael Craig if he'd like to add anything for a moment from the UCSB specific angle. I know that they're thinking about some other tooling. PG Backrest is, I think, the one we're considering doing a spike on there. Michael, anything you'd like to add?
I don't have much to add, but we are looking at PG Backrest to implement both physical and logical backups for point-in-time recovery capabilities. Whether that is a long-term feature that we want to implement is yet to be determined.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to getting into that, kind of comparing how that helps our process. And just a big thanks for you to putting that on our radar, Michael. It was really cool to be able to swarm on that with you this sprint. And I think for the most part, I think that might be it on all things DR related.
Great, thank you, Michael and Michael, for those updates. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to turn it over to Matt and Alex to update on our continuing Bitnami saga and the work that was done to address it during the last 3 weeks.
I can say that on the solar side of things, Alex and I chatted a bit, and our next steps plan is to reach out to Rob Kaufman and see if we can have a discussion about sort of the broader Samvera community's interest in working on this project together. Hopefully that'll get some traction. But that's our plan for the next steps. We're increasingly uncomfortable with continuing to run our respective Bitnami chart deployments. And so we're hoping we can get some traction there. And then I don't think UCSD has any updates. I don't know, Alex, do you have any updates on like the Postgres testing? I know you're working on you all have been testing, I think, in QA for the Postgres operator.
So yeah, we have the new Postgres deployed in QA, but we haven't been able to test what the upgrade looks like because we're running the latest version now. So once there's a new version via the operator, we'll look at what the upgrade steps are like, how easy it is to do, and if it is painless and doesn't give us any surprises, then we may begin migrating our production services to the new Postgres. But that's still pending.
Great, thanks Matt and Alex for those updates. I do want to just take a moment to invite anyone on the team if there's something that we missed that should be shared out please raise your hand or unmute yourself, interrupt me. All right, well, I'm going to, in the meantime, just want to say thank you to the whole team. They did amazing work over this past sprint. It's really, we had a sprint goal check-in late last week. And it was really, really awesome that for the most part, across all of these different goals, we really, the team really made significant progress over the last 3 weeks. So you should all give yourselves a big round of applause. That has been really awesome. And so thank you. Thank you again. Michael, did you have any other words that you wanted to add?
I think this has been a really, really deep and busy sprint. And I think the team did an amazing job at trying to tackle some really complex issues. And so folks should be really proud of their efforts. And I think especially the folks also helping us test and validate those. They're an important part of what we're doing.
Yeah, agreed. And also thank you to all of the folks that have joined us today for the sprint review. We really appreciate you being here. I am now going to ask Michael if you could please stop the recording, and then we can open it up for questions.